a new story about drone strikes in the New York Times. First of all, let me give you some of the numbers. We've done over 300 confirmed drone strikes since President Obama has been in office, and 2,500 people have been killed, and at least 300 of those have been civilians, and that is a very conservative count. So we find out through the New York Times that the Obama administration turns out, well, they didn't have really clear guidelines for who they were killing, so they panicked a little bit before the elections. Let me show you what the New York Times wrote. They say, facing the possibility that President Obama might not win a second term, his administration accelerated work in the weeks before the election to develop explicit rules for the targeting and killing of terrorists by unmanned drones, so that a new president would inherit clear standards and procedures, according to two administration officials. So, in other words, there were no clear rules and standards and procedures for how we kill these people. Oops. I love that. They're like, well, we're above the law. So obviously we don't need clear standards. But wait a minute, if somebody else is coming in office, maybe we should do some clear standards for who we do. And I keep saying kill because I don't want you to get the wrong idea. Drone strikes are not video games. When you do a strike, it's a bomb. It kills everybody that it hit, including civilians, including men, women, and children oftentimes, right? In fact, all the time it's men, women, or children. So they decide, hey, you know what? Maybe we should get some clarity here. But then, of course, they won the election, so the New York Times explains, quote, the matter may have lost some urgency after November 6th. Well, that's funny. So, now that we're back in charge, we don't know stinking standards and procedures. We don't need that. That guy? I think so. Yeah, hell it. Screw it. Bomb it. All right, it continues. The administration is still pushing to make the rules formal and resolve internal uncertainty and disagreement about exactly when lethal action is justified. All right, now that's interesting and deeply disturbing. We've got some disagreement as to when we should kill people, but yeah, we haven't really made any standards, so we're kind of doing it on an ad hoc basis. You want to kill that guy? Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. What's the rules? Oh, we don't have any? That's for Republicans or Democrats or whoever comes in next? All right, go for it, right? Keeps going. The New York Times explains, Mr. Obama did not want to leave an amorphous program to his successor. You know what that means? That means right now we have an amorphous program. That's exactly what we have. So he's like, oh, damn, I don't want to, the way we're doing it is horribly unclear, so I don't want to leave that to the next guy. Well, how about you? Why do you have an incredibly amorphous program? He continues. The effort, which would have been rushed to completion by January, had Mr. Romney won, will now be finished at a more leisurely pace, the official said. Well, as we continue to bomb these folks and kill them over and over again, we will do so at a leisurely pace, not the killings, but figuring out what the rationale and standards are as we're doing it. Not only is this deeply immoral, it is also totally counterproductive. But we continue. New York Times points out, quote, Mr. Obama himself, in little notice remarks, has acknowledged that the legal governance of drone strikes is still a work in progress. That's always your cue for we don't know what the hell we're doing, and this is a fly-by-night operation. Well, in the drone strike case, literally. Now, and by the way, this is the same thing the Obama administration said when they reauthorized drilling in the Gulf Coast. Ken Salazar, the Interior Secretary, when he was asked in Congress, hey, did you figure out what went wrong and have you fixed that in terms of safety to make sure it doesn't happen again? He said, well, it's a work in progress. In other words, nope, we didn't do that at all. So they're right. Here's what President Obama told Jon Stewart on October 18th on The Daily Show. He said, quote, one of the things we've got to do is put a legal architecture in place, and we need congressional help in order to do that, to make sure that not only am I reined in, but any president's reined in terms of some of the decisions we're making. Well, isn't that dandy? In other words, he has admitted, I'm not reined in at all. I can do whatever the hell I want. I can kill anybody I want. In fact, they've executed U.S. citizens with no due process, no trial. Forget a trial. They don't even go to the judiciary and get any type of indictment or anything else. 3 U.S. citizens executed. They say one was on purpose. his 16-year-old son, Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, was not on purpose. He was just killed accidentally, we think, although they never clarified. They say that's top secret as to why we killed that 16-year-old with no due process whatsoever, but probably it was a mistake. Well, isn't that reassuring? Okay? But the president admits right there that he's not reined in and that there is no legal architecture in place for it. That's devastating. If the rest of the media cared at all outside of us and apparently the New York Times, well, that would be a huge story. If a Republican did it, oh my God, every Democrat, liberal, progressive in the country would be screaming bloody murder. Again, pretty much literally, right? When a Democratic president does it, who needs legal architecture and standards and procedures? Bomb away. Now, it's interesting because in the early years, and here, let me quote the New York Times again, but by many accounts, there's been a significant shift in the nature of the targets. Now, look, this is when they were explaining, hey, in the early years, we had been targeting specifically Al-Qaeda leaders. So if we think this is a ranking Al-Qaeda officer, we're going to go and kill him. That's how it started, and it actually started in the Bush years back in 2002. Do you know that before 2001, we condemned targeted killings like this? When other countries we did it, we were like, I cannot believe you would break international law by doing a targeted killing like that. Now, we do hundreds of them, right? So the problem is that it morphed. So they say, but by many accounts, there's been a significant shift in the nature of the targets. In the early years, most strikes were aimed at ranking leaders of Al-Qaeda thought to be plotting to attack the United States. So that's how it begins. And then what happens next? Well, they explained, but for several years, first in Pakistan and later in Yemen, in addition to personality strikes against named terrorists, the CIA and the military have carried out signature strikes against groups of suspected unknown militants. In other words, as I've been telling you all along, we don't know who we're killing. They're unknown militants. The signature strikes started out by being signatures of a certain Al-Qaeda leader. Now, even that was BS, right? Like, we think that that's his car, and his car is in that neighborhood. Let's drop a bomb there and see if we get him, right? Then they morphed into, well, we don't know if it's an Al-Qaeda leader there. We don't even know if it's a militant, but there's a lot of guns there. So let's just drop a bomb and see what happens. That's a signature strike. That's why we hit weddings sometimes, because they bring guns to weddings. Oops, we had the wrong signatures. Yeah, that's what happens when you bomb people and you have no idea who you're bombing, and killing, okay? And here it is, clearly admitting they don't know, unknown. By the way, the New York Times is kind to them and says unknown militants. But we showed you in an earlier piece in the New York Times that they say anyone who is male in the area is de facto considered a militant with no evidence. In other words, they could all be civilians, but as long as we bombed them, then by definition, we call them militants. It is absurd. It is sickening. Now, to be fair to the Obama administration, they say there's some conflicts. They say, quote, such strikes have prompted the greatest conflict inside the Obama administration, with some officials questioning whether killing unidentified fighters is legally justified or worth the local backlash. Wow. You mean to tell me there are some people inside the administration who say maybe we shouldn't randomly kill people? And that might cause a backlash. Well, how do you do? It turns out there are civil libertarians inside the Obama administration. Have they won? Of course not. But I love that they report that as like, are we not merciful? There's a couple of guys we don't listen to who every once in a while say, hey, maybe we shouldn't kill randomly. That good one. No legal architecture, no standards, no procedures. We continue unabated. Gregory D. Johnson is the author of The Last Refuge, Yemen, Al-Qaeda and America's War in Arabia. He's probably the top expert on Yemen in the country. He's at Princeton University. He says, quote, in Yemen, Al-Qaeda is actually expanding. Mr. Johnson said in a recent talk at the Brookings Institution, in part because of the backlash against the strikes. So not only are they deeply immoral, outside of the law, and there's another word for that, it's called illegal, but they're also counterproductive. Look, I am not against all drone strikes. Sometimes targeted drone strikes, when we are absolutely sure, can prevent a larger scale conflict. But when it morphs into a program that has no bounds, no legal structure, and we're just supposed to trust the executive branch that they're killing the right people, even though we know they have killed hundreds of civilians that we know of, let alone how much more it could be, because everybody else is called a militant when we have no idea if they're militants. We know they've killed women and children with these strikes, and we know they have executed U.S. citizens with these strikes with no due process. And what are we supposed to do? Just trust them because it's a kindly Democrat in office? My answer to that is hell no. This program is gross, it is wrong, it is immoral, and it does not help national security. All it does is stoke the fires so that we have endless wars. This program is not for peace, it is for further war. And if you cared at all about this, and it doesn't matter if you're progressive or conservative, you should say, hey, not on our watch, man. You don't kill U.S. citizens, let alone besmirch the name of America by killing civilians with signature strikes where we don't even know who we're killing, and you do it with no legal justification that you will share with the American people, and according to the admission of the president himself, no legal structure whatsoever. It is wrong, wrong, wrong.